Now, I was talking there about how much activity you get from a physical perspective, and are you sitting too much? Well, here's a man who is worth listening to on, I suppose, flexibility and movement, because he's advised Ulster Rugby, he's advised in Tottenham Hotspur indeed, and he's been on with us in the past as well, Dr. Johnny Bloomfield. Johnny, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Frank. How are you?
I'm very well, Johnny. You're an expert in the field when it comes to sports development and all of that. And something as simple as us sitting about too much, you have your worries and your concerns about us just becoming a bit couch potato-ish.
Yes, Frank. Have you heard the slogan that's been kind of scattered about the internet over the last few years? Sitting is the new smoking. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I've heard it, and indeed I know it, compared to lighting up a cigarette, sitting in the chair is not going to be doing you any harm, but if you sit for too long and you're fit enough to get out and about and do other things, it's not great for your heart, I presume.
Well, I think that's where the slogans come from. A very prominent medical doctor in the States in 2014 came up with that slogan. He also said things like chairs are out to kill us and other sensational headlines. I think it's really just to grab attention. I think we've all become a little bit more sedentary. Think of the period we were in lockdown, where we were forced to really stay at home and not really move very far. But still, at the same time, the government were encouraging us to get that hour out and be active, and we're encouraging physical activity in particular in that phase. But yeah, I think if you think over the last few years how our lifestyles have just gradually become more sedentary, our jobs, 50 or more years ago, we're very manual and very labour intensive, and we would have got a lot of physical activity and exercise through our work. But now that's shifted very much towards more sedentary style jobs. We're commuting. You've just been talking about the train to Dublin there. That's 2 hours down, 2 hours back, usually sitting about, and then going just straight off the train station into a meeting and sitting for more hours. So what I'm encouraging people to do is just be conscious about how much time they're sitting, because there is strong evidence there that sitting around and being too inactive isn't really good for us.
What is the best advice? Because I'm thinking about children as well as adults, and more children are sitting with PlayStations and Xboxes and so on and so forth, as opposed to running about, kicking a ball against a wall, skipping, climbing a tree, doing things that we did when we were young. Yeah. And there'd be parents shouting, "Oh, don't suggest they climb trees, they'll fall." The reality is a lot of kids aren't getting any significant exercise, where in my generation we naturally got it because there were darn all else to do. So you have to consider getting out and about, walking, running, going up into the Belfast Hills, having a day in the morns. If you're lucky enough to live in the countryside, crossing a few fields as opposed to just sitting in the house. How do we get the mindset changed?
Well, the mindset is that, so I'm encouraging people to adopt the slogan. Think of the slogan: sit less, move more. So you want to make sure that you avoid sitting for a total of say nine or more hours a day. I mean, the ideal is eight or less. Your target should be 6, but you want to make sure your total sitting time throughout a day is lower than what it maybe currently is. So start to reduce where you're currently at. Then the next thing is about your sitting periods. So you want to avoid long sitting periods as well. So you want to try to make sure that every hour you change posture, for whether it's from sitting to standing, and that can be just you can alleviate all the harm you can generate from sitting for an hour just by standing for 1 to 2 minutes, or just any movements. Go and get yourself a cup of tea. Go to the bathroom. Anything to disrupt the long periods of sitting is a positive thing. And if you can then narrow that down from 60 minutes to around 30, then we're really, really motoring. But being realistic, we've got to reduce our average in the UK is about 9 hours sitting total per day. Some people, can get up to 13, and we're only awake for 16 or 17 hours, by the way, so this doesn't include any sleep time. So we want to narrow that down to begin with, and then we start to get sharp about how long the periods are. So we want to get down to an hour, and ideally down to 30 minutes, where we're changing from sitting to standing. And there's loads of tactics that we can use to help us do that.
Well, there are all the obvious things. I'm beginning to feel guilty because I sit for 3 hours every day between 9 and 12. And if I stand up, then the controls are too far away from me. I'm going to try and do the next bit of this interview actually standing. And immediately, having been on my backside for the last 2.5 hours, I can feel muscles stretching. I can feel my stomach just being a little more relaxed, and I can certainly feel my knees beginning to kick in and be a bit more mobile than they were when they were, sort of my ankles were wrapped round each other under the chair. There's a sensation of standing up, having been sitting for 2.5 hours. Some people sitting for much longer than that. You really have to give some consideration to being as flexible as you can be. And there are loads of opportunities to do it. But should I be, presenting some of this program on a regular basis in a standing position?
Frank, I love your show, but it could be even better. It could be even better if you presented standing sometimes, because when we stand, as you've just experienced, we get better blood flow, and this is where we get extra creativity, and something called divergent thinking happens when we start to get on our feet. We start to come up with better ideas. We start to have just a different perspective of things, if we're, as opposed to just sitting in the traditional way of we would be in our meetings. So
you think we should be standing at meetings? There's a boardroom further down the corridor here. Now, not many people are around because the rules haven't changed yet, but on the 6th of February, I believe many more members of our staff are going to be on site. So you will see the boardroom be used not just by board members, but just by anyone who's calling a meeting. So you would advise maybe standing round that oval table?
Absolutely. If you have a problem to solve, everyone get on your feet, and we'll do a meeting standing for a change. Let's see if that helps us to get a faster solution. Even better than that, try and start a walking meeting. Try and go with one or two colleagues and walk and talk and problem solve. And it's amazing just how fast you can come up with solutions, as opposed to sitting in a tiresome position around a table, not coming up with anything at all.
It's good advice. It really is. Johnny, I hope people are taking it on board, and then take it, of course, a bit further and get out and have a walk, climb a hill, and get yourself out of breath if you're able to do it. And if you're not able to go beyond the seated position, obviously take some advice from your physio on what movements you can include in your life. But thankfully, most people can get up, can walk, and can stretch. And so it sounds like as if we're stating the obvious, but unfortunately we need to, because people are becoming so sedentary. Dr. Johnny Bloomfield with us here on the U105 phone-in.